it means you're not confident. I am confident because I'm winning that fight. And I'm going to get $10,000 off Larry Wheels. I'm going to get $200,000 charity, and you're going to get a tattoo of World's Strongest Man Eddie Hall on your arse. Big love. See you later, guys.
All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. Let's get back into bodybuilding for a little bit here. We've been talking a lot about these fights, but I want to talk about some bodybuilding. So let's talk about the latest physique update from Justin Rodriguez. In my opinion, Justin has been one of the most standout, impressive, improved bodybuilders of the past year. I think his look at the Boston Pro was one of the best physiques we've ever seen from him. His prejudging look at the Arnold Classic, one of the best physiques we've ever seen from him. Top 10 at the Olympia last year, top 6 first call out at the Arnold Classic back-to-back years. Runner-up to William Bonac in Boston, and I think a lot of people would agree that he pushed William Bonac. This latest physique update, he still looks very impressive, and he looks like he's in really good shape. And the reason for that is that he will be doing both shows in May, the New York Pro and the Indy Pro, which he's already won. So if you're a bodybuilder that was prepping for either of those two shows, you're probably not too excited about the fact that Justin is going to be jumping in both those lineups, continuing his prep from Boston all the way to those shows. Because look, the fact of the matter is, Justin has proven that he is one of the biggest threats in the IFBB right now. He was a threat to William Bonac in Boston, and a lot of people are saying right now that Bonac has a realistic chance at another shot at the Olympia title. So Justin is hot on the heels of William Bonac at that Boston show, and Bonac is arguably one of the best bodybuilders on the planet right now. Top 3, top 4. So to be completely honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Justin goes on to win both the New York Pro and the Indy Pro if he's able to maintain that conditioning come into those shows on. Now, next up in bodybuilding news, Phil Heath meets with Olympia president Dan Solomon. So it says they had a several-hour conversation actually, last night at dinner. This was posted by Phil, it was posted by Dan, and then it was posted on Flex Online, which is also it's a media company owned by the Olympia. But I thought the caption on the Flex magazine version of this post was interesting. Said, 7-time Mr. Olympia Phil Heath and Olympia President Dan Solomon were seen last night at a restaurant in Fort Lauderdale. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if Dan Solomon wrote this post. Neither was willing to share what was discussed, but both have confirmed that the 2022 Olympia was a part of this discussion. More updates coming soon. So I think a lot of people's immediate thought upon seeing this post was, is Dan trying to get Phil to compete in the Olympia again this year? I would bet yes, Dan wants Phil to compete. Obviously, it's going to be a huge selling point for the Olympia if Phil did compete, but I think more realistically, the conversation was probably about commentary. As you guys have seen, Phil has been in the news a lot about commentary lately. He commentated the Boston Pro. He did a fantastic job. And by the way, he was offered the commentary gig for the Arnold Classic. I saw there was some controversy about that, but I helped him negotiate that whole thing, so I know for a fact he was offered it, but it fell through. It didn't happen, but they did want him to do it. Now, I would imagine if the Arnold Classic wanted Phil Heath to do commentary, that the Olympia would also be interested in the same thing. Because, as a matter of fact, Phil never won the Arnold Classic, but he did win the Olympia 7 times. So he would be relevant at either one, but obviously much more relevant as an Olympia commentator given the fact that he won that show 7 times. So that's the first part. I think the most realistic part of the conversation involving Phil in the 2022 Olympia would probably be, to some extent, him making an appearance, whether he does like a booth or a signing or commentary, whatever, maybe talked about getting him to compete, but I think that's not likely. The second part that I wanted to bring up here is Athleticon. I've been told by some of my sources behind the scenes that Athleticon is 100% a go for 2023. I also know that Phil is still working on the documentary that he was filming leading up to the 2020 Olympia, which was the last Olympia that he did, working with Danny Garcia and The Rock's production company. That documentary is not completed yet. I have a hunch that if Athleticon really does still happen, the Icon World, or whatever that thing was, Icon World Classic, I think that's what the bodybuilding show's called. If that thing really does happen in 2023, like people are telling me it's going to, I know we haven't heard a lot about it. It's been very quiet about Athleticon since the original announcement years ago. But I am told that 2023, it looks like it is going to be a go for Athleticon. I would imagine that that could be the reason why Phil's documentary is not done. I would imagine that Phil is going to do that show because realistically, if Phil does compete again and he does want to document it for the Olympia, let's be realistic. What are the odds that Phil could win the 22 or 23 Olympia? What are the odds that he could win a show like Athleticon? The odds, I would say, are much higher that he would win a show like Athleticon, and he could maybe, if he does choose to retire on a win, retire on a high note, and end that documentary on a victory. The victory could be the climax of the documentary. Phil's one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time. There's no denying that. 7-time Mr. Olympia. But I'm just speaking realistically. Throughout the history of the Olympia, the more time a bodybuilder spends away from that Olympia stage, the less likely it is that they're going to reclaim or win or place higher when they come back. Look at the entire history of the Olympia with the exception of Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back in 1980. When bodybuilders step away from that Olympia stage, generally speaking, when we're talking a number of years in between Olympia appearances, it generally does not bode well for them the next time they compete. I'm not talking about someone that is competing all year or competing in between and not competing at the Olympia. I'm talking about someone that takes time away from the stage, period, for a number of years. They're not competing at all, they're not active at all, and then come back to the Olympia. So I'm not trying to knock on Phil. Realistically, maybe there is a chance he could win the Olympia again one day. But I'm just saying from a realistic perspective, I would say it's more likely that he would win a show like the Icon World Classic at Athleticon than for him to come back and win the 22 or 23 Olympia, where he will be in his mid-40s. Actually, early 40s. But still. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you think Phil and Dan Solomon discussed in their meeting? And would you like to see Phil do commentary for the Olympia? I personally think he would do a fantastic job. And I'm excited to hopefully maybe one day see him on stage again if that's what he wants to do. Now, another bodybuilding story. I did want to include this in the video even though it's a couple days old because we talked about this already, that I had heard Breon was so upset with the decision at the Arnold Classic, where he took 4th place in Classic Physique, that he was going to switch to 212. Now, a couple days ago on Instagram, he basically confirmed what we had all been hearing. He says this will be his last year competing in Classic Physique. So I'm assuming this means he's just going to do the Classic Physique Olympia one last time at the end of the year, and that's going to be that, and then he's going to switch to 212, which is where he originally came from before he started competing in Classic Physique. And like I said, after the Arnold Classic, I don't think that Breon necessarily came in off or necessarily did anything wrong. I think he looked good as he can in that division. I just think the criteria must be changing, and that's the reason why his placings are getting worse. So I'm kind of curious to see where he does land at this year's Olympia. Again, he is qualified for life because he's a former Olympia champion. So he does not need to compete or do anything between now and then to get to the Olympia. But I'm curious to get your feedback on this. Where do you think he will still be top 6 at this year's Olympia after a 4th place placing at the Arnold Classic? Do you think he's going to be able to make a successful transition to 212? Personally, I don't know how well he's going to do in 212. I mean, clearly, starting in 212, I think every 212 show he did, he was outside of the top 10. So when he switched to Classic Physique, he was almost immediately winning shows in Classic. So to me, that would suggest that his physique is much better suited for Classic than 212, even if it is difficult for him to make weight. So personally speaking, I just have a hard time believing he's going to come over to 212 and do better than he's doing in Classic, but I guess we'll find out, and it's going to be interesting to watch that journey. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Now, the final story that I have for you guys today, let's talk about Eddie Hall, Hafthor, Larry Wheels one more time. Eddie Hall, in his latest post, seemingly ignoring the bet with Hafthor, the bet with Larry, which is what everybody's talking about the past couple days. Larry and Thor did a video reminding Eddie that he owes Larry $10,000. He made that bet with Larry. He owes Hafthor a tattoo. He has to get a tattoo, Eddie does, on his body that says Hafthor Bjornsson, World's Strongest Man. And there was also the charity bet. Now, the bet with Larry and the charity bet, which I believe was $200,000. Let's roll this clip for you guys right here of Eddie reminding everybody what the bet was.
It means you're not confident. I am confident because I'm winning that fight. And I'm going to get $10,000 off Larry Wheels. I'm going to get $200,000 to charity, and you're going to get a tattoo of World's Strongest Man Eddie Hall on your arse. Big love. See you later, guys.
And where was the positivity towards me? I'm asking you, man to man. Where was the positivity? If you're going to do that, without saying it up front, that to me is a kick in the dick, mate.
I took serious offense to it. Yeah, I apologize. That's not what I intended.
All right. Apology accepted.
All right, brother.
Carry on sucking Thor's dick, and I'll look forward to taking 10 grand off you.
That 10 grand is mine, by the way.
It's not, mate.
If you beat me, I will pay $200,000 to your choice of charity. And come on now, don't ignore me. This is for charity. We'll get the promoter to write it into the contract, so there's no getting out of it. So everyone put pressure on Thor now. Don't ignore me again. Let's pull the deal on this. Let's do something good for charity. I'm absolutely down.
But the charity bet and the Larry Wheels bet were Eddie's idea. That was his challenge to Larry, his challenge to Thor, so I think he should definitely follow through on those. He did accept the tattoo bet, which was Hafthor's idea. So I think he should also have to follow through with that. But as you can see in this latest post, this is the only thing he's posted since the night of the fight. And he has not addressed at all in any of his latest posts any of the bets, any of the money, any of the tattoos, any of this stuff. And you can see that in the comments of this post. Everybody is bringing it up because Eddie is not. Do I think Eddie is a man of his word? Yes, I do. I think he's going to honor these bets to the best of his ability. That being said, I wonder how much money Eddie and Thor are going to be paid or were paid after the fight. I know that they received some amount of money before the fight. They had it in escrow. I believe it was $500,000 each. After watching that live stream, that was not a pay-per-view, it was free to watch, and watching the audience, seeing how many people were actually there in attendance, I have a really hard time believing that these guys got paid much after the fight. I don't know where the money would have come from. I think realistically, almost any promoter would probably have considered this thing to be a flop. So maybe they don't get paid the original amount they were supposed to. If that's the case, maybe Eddie can donate a little bit less to charity, but still donate a percentage. But I think he should still pay Larry the money. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think Eddie Hall will hold up his end of the bet? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet already. That helps out a lot. Leave a comment down below. And as always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.